So, Clownfish TV, mostly Neon, did a solo, I guess you could say, news clip on their channel. And he talked about the fact, well, he headlined it basically that, and then he even talked about it, that IDW Comics, IDW Publications or Publishing, is basically on life support. That, in his opinion, IDW Comics is on the verge of going under. And like I said, this is his opinion. He said that from experience-wise, he has worked for IDW. So that does give him a bit of credit. And the reason he brings this up is because it was announced, and you can find this online, that IDW is going to lose their Hasbro licenses for comics in 2022. That Hasbro is taking My Little Pony, Transformers, G.I. Joe, and any other Hasbro properties they have comic book licensing or basically have given comic book licensing to IDW for. The report is they're going to be taking them away in 2022 and basically sending them over from what he's assuming to be Dark Horse Comics. Because apparently Dark Horse also got the IDW licensing from Disney/Marvel. Now you might say, well, why is Marvel licensing out to IDW? Mainly it's because it's the fact that IDW was the main place for the more all-ages versions of the books, like Captain Marvel, X-Men, Spider-Man. Basically the kind of books that are meant for younger ages and all that. And also kind of opens the door to possibly have them cross over with their characters and stuff like that. Well, basically, long story short, Dark Horse now apparently is going to be the new home for those comics. And it looks like it's going to be the same for the Hasbro properties starting in 2022. Now, why do I bring this up? Because one of the thumbnails, or some of the thumbnails that they use when talking about this are the Sonic thumbnails, because Sonic is currently under the license via Sega to IDW. And if IDW is in the situation that it's in right now, according to numerous sources like Neon of Clownfish TV, if they're in the situation they're in right now, the obvious question is, with them losing, the licensing to the Hasbro properties, them already losing, I should say, the Disney properties, the question is, will Sonic be next? Will Sonic be the next one to go? Will Sega see, the fact that here you have these two huge conglomerates in Disney and Hasbro taking away the comic book licenses of the properties from IDW and taking them over to someplace else? Will they see this and be like, well, if they're taking their property away from them because IDW is in a situation that they can't get out of, maybe we should do the same with Sonic. And that could probably be what happens. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, far from it. I mean, for all we know, Sonic is probably one of the best comics they got going right now. I mean, the fact that we're almost at 50 issues, that, as far as the main book goes, that's saying something. The fact that we've had numerous spin-offs, limited spin-offs, if you will, like the Bad Guys and currently Imposter Syndrome, that should be saying something. That should be, telling us, very highly, how much IDW and Sega think about the partnership if they're allowing this kind of stuff to happen. Now, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. If IDW, like I said, is in the situation financially or whatever that even people like Neon and several other sources are reporting them to be in, the thing is, does Sega wait to see what happens? Or do they make a judgment call? Does Sega make the judgment call and say, enough's enough? We're hearing too much, negative crap coming out of IDW. We're hearing too much about financial troubles. We don't want to chance anything, so we're making a judgment call now. We want to, revoke our license with you, and we're going to go look somewhere else. Could they do that? Could Sega come up to IDW and say that? Absolutely. Absolutely. They could be the ones that pull the plug. They could be the ones that pull the plug. But the question would be then, if they want to continue the comic book adventures of Sonic, who do they go to next? Who do they go to next? Do they go to DC in one of those subdivisions? Do they go to Marvel in one of those subdivisions? Do they go to Image in one of those subdivisions? Or do they go to Top Cow? There's a lot of possibilities. A lot of possibilities of who they could go to next. Or do they go home? Do they go home to Archie? Do they go back to Archie Comics and say, hey, let's start again? Let's start again and perhaps resume where we left off. They could do that. They could do that, and and they could incorporate characters like Tangle and Whisper into the storyline. It's possible. But it all depends on what Sega does. Right now, Sega is not going to do anything, because the only news and information we're hearing about comic book licensing for franchises and IPs being pulled are from Hasbro and Disney. There are other properties, licensed properties, that IDW has, access to. They have the rights to publish comics. So we have nothing to fear there. We have nothing to fear there as of right now, because they also have original IPs that are keeping them afloat. But, again, I say but, the question obviously is, when will Sega, reconsider, the possibility? When will they decide that maybe, that basically hearing enough, negativity, that maybe they need to consider, reconsider their options and maybe pull out of the partnership? Or maybe let IDW know that, hey, if you don't, get out of this situation, if you don't stop, having this negative news thrown upon you, we may have to reinvoke our license to you. Will that happen? Hard to say. I know if I'm Sega, I don't make any judgment calls yet. I don't take any judgment call. I don't make any judgment calls. Just because I'm seeing all these other licensed IPs being pulled by the owners and all that, and licensed out to other publications. I don't do anything, because the way I look at it, basically, the less licensed publications, the more opportunity my comic has. You can't tell me that Nickelodeon, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, those people are not kind of gleaming at the fact that, hey, Hasbro's going to be gone out of the picture. That makes more opportunity for more TMNT related material to show up. You can't tell me they're looking at it from a positive standpoint, because they are. And speaking of TMNT, they had their panel at the special edition of San Diego Comic-Con this past November, and they were promoting the Roniverse, the Roninverse, if you will, for the TMNT comic. And you have to think, well, if they're promoting the Roninverse for TMNT, as far as IDW is concerned, then maybe it's not as bad as what some people are letting on. And that might be true. That might be true. And maybe with Neon, it's, some people might say with Neon, it's sour grapes. And, he's just reporting what he's hearing, and he's just headlining his titles and everything like this, not just for clickbait, but because it's sour grapes. That could be too. But we're not entirely sure yet. We're not entirely sure. But like I said, if I'm Sega, I don't make any judgment calls yet. I don't make any judgment calls just based off the fact that Disney pulled their IPs, that Hasbro's pulling theirs. I don't make any judgment calls. I wait. And honestly, if I am Sega and I want to make a judgment call, I want to have a talk and, consider my options for the future, I wait until probably the biggest pull of a licensed IP occurs. And that's TMNT. Because if Nickelodeon, this is a fact, if Nickelodeon pulls their IP from IDW and licenses it out to somebody else like Dark Horse, Top Cow, or whoever, if they do that, then that right there will be a very tall tale sign, a red flag, if you will, to Sega that maybe, just maybe, they should start considering the same thing. But we'll have to see. Because right now, I do not think Sega has anything to worry about. I don't think IDW has anything to worry about as far as, publication of the Sonic comics. So, as far as the future of Sonic at IDW, I think they're fine. Even if, IDW is losing the rights to, the comic book rights of the Hasbro properties and the Disney properties to other publications, I don't think they have anything to worry about. But like I said, I think the main thing they do have to worry about, the main thing they do have to consider is if, and only if, basically, only if, Nickelodeon, the main owners of the TMNT property right now, make the decision to end the partnership with IDW. And not just for TMNT. Nickelodeon has a lot of the properties, comic book-wise, being published and licensed out to IDW. So if Nickelodeon comes out in the near future and makes the decision that they want to pull all the properties, TMNT, SpongeBob, Loud House, Avatar, you name it, Korra, if they make that decision, then yeah, if I'm Sega, I will start reconsidering my options, as to, where I should go next. Should I go back to Archie? Should I go to Dark Horse, Top Cow, Image, some other publication that's new or, up and coming? Where? That would be the time. That to me would be the only time, if I'm Sega, that I would reconsider my options. That I would reconsider where I should have the comic book publication of my main franchise, my main character, be, showcased at. That should be the only time and nothing else. Because if I see Nickelodeon, this big conglomerate, pull their licenses from IDW, just like Hasbro has done, just like Disney has done, then that's when I start reconsidering. But until that moment happens, I don't think I have to worry about a thing. I don't think I have to worry about a thing. So to me, when I look at this report about IDW losing Hasbro and then before that losing Disney, I don't worry. Well, like I said, if I'm Sega, and I apologize for the interruption there, but like I said, if I'm Sega, I shouldn't worry right now because of the fact that, like I said, unless Nickelodeon starts pulling their properties, then I worry. Because the big property out of Nickelodeon that they have licensed to IDW is TMNT, and that makes a lot of money. Like I said, if I'm Sega and I see, like I say, Nickelodeon pulling all the properties, mostly TMNT, which is a big moneymaker for IDW, then that's when I start to, like as I said before, I start to kind of worry. I kind of reconsider, maybe, looking elsewhere, starting up negotiations perhaps, stuff like that. That's when I start to panic, or, well, not necessarily panic, but really think about, my future as far as, comic book publications, with my, with my main franchises IP and other IPs I have out there. So right now, like I said, just because Hasbro and Disney have pulled their licenses from IDW, I don't think they have much to worry about right now. They have the Nickelodeon licenses, they have Sega's, they probably have more and everything out there that we don't know about, including their own original IPs. So I don't think, if I'm a fan of the IDW comic, I'm a subscriber, I'm a reader, and believe it or not, I am, because even though I haven't reviewed them, and I should, I do have a lot of the trade paperbacks thanks to Frank Hill, and I've really been, enjoying what I've been reading. Not a fan of the Metal Virus arc, like a lot of people. I figured it started out good, but then it kind of it basically pulled a Mecha Sally deal. It rinsed and repeated, we'll put it that way. But yeah, I've enjoyed what I've read so far, and I've got new editions that I'm going to enjoy and read and everything. But like I said, if I'm a fan, a long-time fan since the beginning, of the IDW run, I shouldn't really worry right now about what the future holds. Because like I said, the only time I think we should really consider potentially, IDW losing the Sonic comic license and, Sega looking elsewhere, is when Nickelodeon, in my opinion, probably the biggest grab so far that they have, IP license-wise, is, basically, basically, what I'm trying to say, excuse me, hold on. Basically, when they start pulling the license from IDW, especially the TMNT one, that, as a fan, is when I should start thinking, okay, is Sega next? Is Sonic next, basically? Is Sonic next? But right now, I don't think we have anything to worry about, because as I mentioned, like I mentioned, those that are working on the TMNT book and other, Nickelodeon licenses through IDW, with the removal of the Hasbro licenses, with the removal of the Disney licenses, it makes more room and opportunity for my comic, based on my properties, to get more viewership, to get more attention, and not get lost in a shuffle. So right now, I don't think we have anything to worry about, but, but I would say, in closing, keep your eyes out, keep your ears and eyes open, because there is a good chance, a very, very good chance, ladies and gentlemen, a very, very good chance that in 2022, a massive shift could change in IDW, and what we don't think is possible right now could become reality. So I keep my eyes and ears open, because 2022, whether it's at the start, in the middle, or at the end, I would not be surprised. Not saying it's going to happen, but I would not be surprised if Nickelodeon comes out and announces that they too, along with Hasbro and Disney before them, are pulling the licenses from, or the IP comic book licensing from IDW. Because if that does happen, not saying it will, but if it does happen, then that's when, if I'm an IDW Sonic fan, that's when I start thinking, okay, is Sega going to do the same thing? And if they do, where do they take it next? Do they take it to another publication like Dark Horse, Image, Top Cow? Or do they go home? Do they do a homecoming, a welcome back deal with Archie? That'll be something to think about, but right now I don't think we have anything to worry about. I mean, honestly, if I'm IDW, again, I look at the fact that Archie Comics had over 200 plus, almost nearly 300, issues worth of the main Sonic comic, in addition to almost 80 issues worth of the Sonic Universe deal, in addition to the Knuckles deal. If they can do that. And according to Ken Penders, he's willing to work with them now, or willing to work with anybody. I look at the fact that I've got access potentially to all these stories from all near 300 issues of the main book, 80 issues of the universe and all that. I look at that vast amount, of continuity that I can label as another time, another world, another universe. And just like I did with TMNT Adventures that were under Archie Comics, if I'm IDW, I start bringing out publications in trade paperbacks of all those issues. Because I'll tell you honestly, those TMNT Adventure trade paperbacks, you know, they are worth having, because if you didn't get the initial issues originally, you can get them here in these trade paperbacks, and it's worth it. So if I'm IDW and I want to make sure I keep good with someone like Sega, and I want to keep the Sonic property, especially with the movie coming out and Sonic Prime coming out, then I talk with Archie, I talk with the people that worked on the Archie book, and I do what I can to get all those stories together in trade paperback form. That's what I do. Because if they do that, even if they label it another time, another lifetime, or whatever, those will sell. Guaranteed. But right now, I don't think, like I said, we have anything to worry about. I don't think we have to, be concerned, as of right now. But until the day that Nickelodeon, that's the key one I'm looking at, Nickelodeon decides, hey, we're going to do what Hasbro and Disney did before us, and that's pull our IPs, then maybe, if not definitely, that's when I start to kind of be concerned. Not only as a fan, but if I'm Sega. But what do you guys think? Do you think IDW will lose the Sonic property, the Sonic IP? Do you think Sega will do what Hasbro and Disney done before? Or do you think they'll wait until maybe, perhaps, Nickelodeon does it? What are your thoughts? Live chat during the premiere, like the video, comment down below. Check out my Teespring store, especially with the Christmas season here. Also check me out at BW Rosas, discussions on all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Also check me out at BW Rosas on Patreon. Check me out at BW Rosas on VENMO, and check me out at VENMO at Brian-Walmer-2 to help donate there as well. So until next time, guys, I will talk to you later, but give me your thoughts, and I'm out.